Today on Co-op for Two, a quick spoiler-free review of The Shelter, a small standalone expansion for Mortum Medieval Detective. What's so special about this little box? Stay tuned to find out. Some background first. I purchase all the games we play on this channel myself. I have no relationship with any publisher. I reviewed and we played through on the channel the full box Mortum Medieval Detective back in 2022. It's a card-based narrative mystery adventure game in a supernatural world with its own lore. The base box here has 3 cases that are somewhat connected. They're non-replayable. It's got some very interesting additional mechanics on top of the solving of mysteries. I liked it quite a bit. I thought it had great potential, but I didn't love the base game here. And I wanted a little bit more from the cases. So what is The Shelter? It's this little box I'm holding right here. It's billed as an expansion to Mortum Medieval Detective, but a standalone expansion. That's an awkward concept. Really, I think it's best thought of as its own little game. It doesn't require any familiarity with the base game. It doesn't require any pieces from the base game. It uses the same mechanics and ideas and rules, but they're all contained in this little box. It is a supernatural horror mystery adventure hybrid. It's basically just it's a small box, but it's quite heavy. It's a stack of 120 or so oversized cards. Probably take you 3 or 4 hours to play through. It's non-replayable, but nothing gets destroyed, so you could pass it along when you finish it. Currently selling for $15, $20. You play through it. There's some adventure elements, some mystery elements, but there's a serious mystery here. And at the end of the case, you will answer a whole bunch of questions to show how well you understood the mystery. You'll be scored, and then you'll get an epilogue. I think we should look at the cards to give you some idea of what you're getting in this box. I've said there won't be any spoilers here. There won't. I'm just going to show you what you would see right away. But let's give you some idea of what you're getting here. You've got 3 small punch boards of tokens, and then the rest is cards. There's a tiny little introduction here. It tells you there's some violence and horror here. Probably 14 or up is the age, somewhere in that range. And then there's this is the only time where if you've played through the base game, you sort of start with 1 different card to sort of continue the story from where you left off. But really, it's not important at all. Let me just give you an example here. Then you've got a whole bunch of cards that you will reveal if you do this special action. There are a bunch of extra things on top of the normal mechanics you see in a card-based mystery game. We've got some characters that we play. You've got a clock. There's time management in this game. Each time you do something, the clock advances. And then you've got lots of cards with dense amount of text that you read that unfolds the mystery. Then you've got some illustrated cards that show you where you are. And then you've got a whole bunch of other cards of people you talk to and scenes you see. The art is very good. There's lots of it. It's very evocative. It fits this world perfectly. And there's lots of text. You see the amount of text on a card typically. The cards are double-sided. They're all full. This is a stack of 120 or so oversized cards that are just full from top to bottom with stuff to read and look at. Very well written, very evocative. just very polished experience. I've talked a little bit about the mechanics. The mechanics in this expansion are the same in Mortum Medieval Detective. The formula follows the same basic formula that we see in lots of card-based mystery games, which is that your chief decision is what card to read next. You might have a whole bunch of cards in front of you at any one time. Each of them will have some follow-up action you can take that would have you draw another card from the numbered deck. You want to talk to someone, you want to ask someone about something, you want to do some action, you want to explore some location. That we're used to, but there's a bunch of additional mechanics in Mortum Medieval Detective system. There's a clock that is tense and makes you constantly worry if you have enough time to do everything. You will not read all of the cards in this deck. In fact, by the time you finish your case, there'll probably be a third of these cards that you never saw because you chose different paths. In addition to the time element, there are a whole bunch of sort of choose-your-own-adventure-like decisions that you'll make. Some of them just have narrative thematic payoffs. Some of them depend on you choosing what you're interested in, and some of them are decisions that you'll be nervous about making because they'll have consequences. And then in addition, there's this resource management element of the game where you'll have certain tokens. Some of them refresh every day. The case is broken into a number of days, which adds another interesting aspect to decision making, because you can push your time on one day and then you'll have to have a shorter day the next day, and things are happening between days. So sometimes you'll be worrying about, should we exhaust ourselves more today so that we can wrap this up before the next day comes because something bad might happen. And then the tokens let you do some special actions, which include watching people or doing some special activity that costs you some tokens. It's a sort of hybrid of mystery, adventure, resource management. It's done as well as I've ever seen it done, especially in this case. And it does add a gamey, tense mechanic to the game. It's not... it adds a little bit of randomness, unpredictability, and it's possible your group... It's a little dangerous because you could have a playthrough where you're making decisions that aren't entirely founded in logic. Sometimes they're just gut-level decisions about who you trust, who you don't, what area you want to explore. So there's a little bit of sort of a choose-your-own-adventure randomness to it. But on the other hand, it feels tense. It feels like your decisions are weighty and important. And I think it would also make for a good group play because you can argue about where you should spend your time and energy and resources. And this might be a good time to mention that we played through the game on the channel. It took us about 10 or 11 hours, won't take you that long. But after you play this game yourself, you could go and watch our playthrough and see how our experience differed from yours. The last thing to just reiterate here is how much reading is in this game. You have to like that kind of mystery where you're spending most of your time reading and thinking about text and rereading cards. When we played it, we broke this game into 2 sessions, and at the second session, we spent an hour just rereading cards to refamiliarize ourselves with all of the subtle details and scene descriptions and dialogue that are important to solving the mystery. Now, I want to take a moment to say again that this is a standalone game. I think you might even, it's better if you don't even completely disregard the idea of calling this an expansion. That would be a mistake. This is a standalone small box game, and it would be unfortunate to limit this to players who have played the base game. That's not what's going on here. This is a self-contained experience. You don't need any familiarity with the base game to enjoy it. There's a tiny bit of connection to the story. If you've been in the world of Mortum Medieval Detective, some things will be a little bit more familiar to you, but you do not need any experience. You will not have a lesser experience if you just jump right in here. Let me give you my thoughts here on Mortum Medieval Detective: The Shelter. If the idea of a serious mystery set in a supernatural world of horror appeals to you, this is a no-brainer. It's a very tricky thing to get right, this genre, where you have potentially supernatural elements mixed in with human psychology, paranoia, pathos, and a real Agatha Christie-like cozy mystery. Very hard to get that right, and this game does it as well as any game I've played. It's incredibly well-balanced combination of these elements, mystery, horror, and adventure. And it keeps you on your toes from start to finish. It's got a great arc, great pacing. It feels like an active, dangerous investigation. 10 out of 10 for me. Some final recommendations. If you played the base game of Mortum Medieval Detective and liked it, you're going to love this one. If you played the base game and liked the idea, the world, but were maybe a little let down by the cases, then you really should try this, because this is an exceptional case and it sort of gets everything right. Everything that you wanted Mortum Medieval Detective to be is right here. If you've never played the base game, I think this is really a good place to start, and you should go grab this. And if you like it and want to play more, then you can go pick up the base game. And it's not going to quite hit the level of this expansion, but it's still got some fun stuff in it. I do love this genre where you've got supernatural horror elements mixed in with real human psychology, and you're never sure if an explanation has a human, if a mystery has a human explanation, just making it look supernatural, if there really is some other worldly involvement. And if you do like the game here, the author of the game, Sergei Minovich, who's Russian, is just wrapping up a follow-up game that looks to be quite similar, but maybe more ambitious, called The Legacy of Eastbrook Hills. Probably be out in Russian this year, but may not be translated into English for another year or so. But keep your eyes open for that Legacy of Eastbrook Hills. It really looks quite good. And there are a couple more games available now which have this sort of mix of mystery and horror and supernatural. Mythos Tales is one. I just put up a review of that. A big box of cases in Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective style. And then you might also check out Bureau of Investigation and maybe Escape Tales Children of Wormwoods, although that one's more of a puzzle game. But not that many choices if you like this kind of mix, so we should relish them when we get them. I'd like to hear your thoughts if you've played this, and I'll see you on the next video.